We're pleased to welcome today's speaker, Martina Sedlak, CHC, CHPC, who is a Compliance and Privacy Officer at Kohler Healthcare Consulting with over 30 years of compliance and privacy experience in the healthcare and insurance industries. Ms. Sedlak has developed and led compliance and privacy programs, collaborating with the C-suite, regulators, payers, attorneys, and providers across all specialties to meet strategic business goals. Martina specializes in governance infrastructure, process efficiencies and standardization, litigation and acquisition support, and educational programs just like this one. With that, Martina, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Linker. Welcome and good morning, everybody, and happy Thursday. Thank you so much for spending part of your morning with me to learn more about responsible AI. So the presentation is divided into 4 content sections. How is AI shaping the healthcare landscape? What do organizations need to consider when looking to AI, and are they ready for AI? What is responsible AI? And then the regulatory and consumer expectations of organizations who are looking to adopt or using AI. Next slide, please. With respect to any content that you have in this presentation related to your organization, please reach out to your legal or compliance leaders for any questions relevant to your organization. Next slide, please. So let's move on to the healthcare landscape. Next slide, please. As you can see from this image, artificial intelligence has been around since the early mid-1900s, with renewed interest surfacing in the 1980s and big data entering the picture in the 1990s. Next page, please. On this slide, you'll see that there were 3 studies were included in the early history of artificial intelligence: the Dartmouth workshop, the Turing test, and the Mycin, which was the entry into research. It wasn't until the big data entered the playing field that AI gained momentum and the potential in healthcare was actually realized. Now that we're in the 2020s, AI in healthcare has witnessed several transformative advancements, such as robotic surgery, machine learning with cyber protection, and the emergence of generative AI, such as ChatGPT, Claude, and Gemini. Next slide, please. So let's move on to the present landscape. Artificial intelligence is becoming preferred, with 85% of healthcare leaders leveraging AI to improve clinical effectiveness and improve patient care engagement. In addition, roughly 60% of physicians use AI as a co-pilot to enhance patient care with routine tasks to improve diagnostic accuracy and treatment plans. In the slide here, you'll see that I'm going to go over some of the examples in which artificial intelligence is rapidly transforming healthcare. Clinical diagnostics and treatments is which AI tools can actually detect 64% of epilepsy brain lesions previously missed by radiologists earlier and more quickly. In drug discovery and development, new drugs for a range of diagnoses are being developed in months versus years, analyzing human cell behavior. In addition, analyzing existing drug data for new and faster therapeutic cases, such as we witnessed with COVID-19 and also in cancer. Administratively and operational efficiencies include in which AI improves the efficiency and medical coding, billing, and prior authorization processes by reducing administrative errors, accelerating approvals, and streamlining reimbursement workflows. Patient engagement and remote care is witnessing appointment scheduling, AI chatbots, and patient portals assisting in post-surgical care and answering patients' clinical questions. Next slide, please. So amid the rapid growth of AI, as with research and development or anything new that comes within the industry, there are significant challenges with AI that lead to learning opportunities and needed application enhancements. Let's go through a few of them. Bias is a major concern in AI. Bias may occur for a variety of reasons, but for example, data used to train AI programs or rules used to create algorithms can introduce bias. Facial recognition training based on females will render the AI unable to identify male faces. Healthcare organizations and providers are also facing increasing challenges in securing sensitive and confidential data while complying with federal and state privacy regulations. AI is a complex technology as it requires large volumes of diverse data, but it can be vulnerable, extremely vulnerable to privacy and cybersecurity risks. Patient expectations. AI has the potential to improve patient outcomes with identification and treatment planning. However, there are still questions about how patients will interact with these new technologies, whether they will actually trust the answers, and how they will affect the relationship between providers and their patients. Training is also not just required now when implementing AI and developing new skills, but it's also affecting the existing curriculums for medical students and existing curriculums for healthcare certifications. Next slide, please. So personally, we're also using a lot of AI, consumers as a whole. They've been using AI for quite some time. Some are aware that they're using AI, and other consumers, about 60%, are not aware that they are using existing applications which have actually incorporated AI into their background for operational reasons without consumers' knowledge or even the requirement to know that. Many consumers report using these tools for convenience rather than accuracy, as they are faster than traditional in-person care or encounters. In many cases, these tools operate in a gray area where they function as wellness applications outside strict regulatory oversight, even when providing health advice, which is an extraordinary concern on the back end. Since we're closing out the first section here about the landscape, are there any questions in the Q&A?
No, Martina, there are not.
Martina, we did have a few questions come in through the registration process. If you want to tackle one of those now.
Absolutely. Thank you.
First one we had was, how are regulators, payers, and providers influencing which AI tools actually get adopted at scale?
So I think what the regulators, in my opinion, from the regulator point of view, it really depends on what the regulators are looking at, which we'll go further into later in this presentation. Consumers are really dictating it too with respect to how easy is it to use. From an organization standpoint, it really depends on what your use case scenario is and also how educated your workforce is with respect to using the application. And if you have any legacy systems or difficult standalone systems that would need to be included, that would really depend on whether or not you need to use a complex AI application or a more streamlined, functional, transparent application. Next slide, please. Thank you for that question. Appreciate it. So now we'll go on to the operational considerations and organizational readiness. Next slide, please. But before we go into that area, I would like to kindly ask the audience to participate in a quick poll regarding AI uses and challenges. So the three questions that you'll have in front of you to answer are whether you are currently using AI professionally, Are you using it personally? And do you find AI to be beneficial or concerning? Or neutral if you don't have either or. Just give the survey a few minutes. Okay, as expected, there are quite a few people that are using AI already professionally, and more evident that we are definitely using AI more personally, which is more where people took off before organizations did. And with respect to really whether or not it's beneficial or concerning, or whether you really don't know, because you might not know the output, these survey results are not alarming. They are actually in line with what I expected. And I think as we go through more AI use cases over the next decade, a lot of these answers will change. Thank you, everyone, for participating. Next slide, please. Okay. I would like to provide a brief summary of AI basics. AI refers to computer systems that mimic human thinking to solve problems and to learn from experience. Most of today, we use narrow AI, meaning it's very good at specific tasks, but it does not do well with multitasking as we know it from a human experience. These systems often use machine learning, which allows them to learn and improve on their own without constant human input. However, keep in mind, human input is vital to ensure accuracy in the output. AI is usually broken down into four methods. The names of these methods differ across industries and organizations. Let's go through them. Machine learning is where the machine application learns from the information given, providing opinions, assessments, and decisions. The choices are limitless, but greatly vary depending on abilities. Neural networks. In simplest form, a computer mirrors the connection of neurons, just as how in human brain functions, such as Siri or Alexa. Then we have natural language processing, also known as NLP. It's an application that can provide output just from spoken language. If you've ever used Google search by speaking into your cell phone, that's NLP. Then we have the robotics, deep learning, which is where machines and applications that use numbers and math to provide output versus the neural networks, which is more of the neurons that are processing just like within a brain. The robotics and deep learning is usually where the large data, and machine learning where large data is downloaded into those applications. Next slide, please. In addition, there are actually two main types of applications, black box AI and white box AI. Black box AI is like a super smart machine that gives answers, but nobody really knows how it came up with them. It can be very accurate and can handle complex tasks, but users such as doctors may not fully trust it because the reasoning behind the answers is hidden. White box AI is easier to understand. It shows how it makes decisions step by step, so users can actually see the logic behind the answers. This makes it easier to convey those answers to patients or other consumers where whatever the industry requires. It may not always be as powerful as black box AI, but it is safer and easier to trust, according to industry surveys. Some of the main differences between the two. Outcome transparency is in the white box, but not in the black box. And the outcome can also be interpreted in the white box, not in the black box. Also, how it analyzes the information that it is provided. Is it complicated or is it just a single task type application? How complicated is it for the end user? How well does it explain decisions? How many people trust it? As we discussed earlier, when you're able to actually clarify or give examples or give deep explanation as to where the outcome or how the outcome came about, people tend to trust it more. Is it easy to locate and fix mistakes? Obviously, with black box, that's almost not something that can be done. White box is very transparent. You can go in, locate, and fix mistakes. White box AI is commonly used in important areas such as healthcare and finance because people need to understand and trust the decisions being made for their health. While most end users will not be part of this decision making to determine if you're going to use black box or white box, it is important for many users, however, such as IT, clinical informatics, compliance, physicians, and legal, to know when managing care and meeting business and regulatory requirements. Next slide, please. So another consideration when looking at AI is knowing what the government is doing regarding enforcement. This is where it's going to tell you what kind of AI you're looking for and where you need to supplement AI within your operations. In a unique twist, not only is the government enforcing responsible use of AI, but it is also leveraging AI to analyze large amounts of data and claims, identifying patterns and red flags of suspicious behavior. They have found dependable sources to quickly investigate False Claims Act and medically unnecessary care found in the medical records of patients in Medicare Advantage plans. Keep in mind that when looking at false claims investigations, both the manual QC approver, the human reviewer, and the AI's application determination will be reviewed by the regulators. In addition, local state law enforcement agencies are now conducting sting operations to identify healthcare AI in which the application is conducting unlawful practices of medicine. So when you look at all that so far, the government and other industry leaders have communicated some best practices for organizations using AI. Develop an AI governance committee and run through a go live before engaging a vendor. Work with the end users and IT to develop guardrails and controls on what the application is allowed to determine and how it can determine that. Ensure data integrity before merging or entering data into the AI application. Clean data is always going to be beneficial when looking at the output. Comprehensive training for the workforce before the application goes live, and then focus training during its early use. Business operations should monitor the effectiveness of the AI application against its determined purpose for any needed modifications. And then what's become more important, or at least more focused over the past 6 months, is engage strict scrutiny of vendor contracts and BAAs, which are contracts in which PHI or PII, personally identifiable health information and consumer information, used through new and annual vendor risk assessment. Next page, please. In addition, the DOJ, HHS, OIG, and local law enforcement agencies are using AI to analyze operational aspects of healthcare, with 2024 and 2026 focus areas including EHR data manipulation, unnecessary medical supplies, AI-driven billing, AI wiretapping, and unlawful practices of medicine. AI enforcement in healthcare operations for small and large organizations is increasing, with federal and state enforcement agencies targeting reckless disregard under the False Claims Act for AI-related coding errors, poor documentation, care billing upcoding, focus on AI-driven fraud and Medicare Advantage plans, AI scribes, customer service, and ambient listening. State and federal agencies are urging all organizations contracting with AI vendors to conduct documented, robust due diligence at the outset and annually as AI algorithms evolve during use. For example, controls and rules agreed to at the beginning of a contract may not be applicable after a year of algorithm use and evolution. Additions to contract language may be necessary for risk mitigation and asking vendor many operational questions regarding ambient listening workflows. Ambient listening applications during encounters or consents pick up not only the conversation between the patient and the doctor, but also those conversations within technical earshot. Therefore, alleging violation of wiretapping laws and AI scribing may embellish an encounter, leading to higher coding than the encounter required. Let's look to the right side of this slide here for a moment and go through some of these enforcements, because some of them are already settled enforcements and some are open. Large organization at the top was fined $703 million in 2025 for fake Medicare patient consent recordings for unnecessary supplies. This goes back to how they're using wiretapping, how they're using scribing when patients actually agree to something. Subpoenas for large pharma and digital healthcare with allegations of generative AI use in electronic medical record resulting in excessive billing. This is again where the scribe is putting in language that actually makes the billing be upcoded. And that is something of great concern, specifically in the Medicare Advantage plans. Smaller diagnostic company, I think it's Solera Medical Solutions, was fined $3 million when AI diagnostics were used for phishing attacks, leading to data breaches. Some open litigation here. A chatbot for an AI company in Pennsylvania identified itself as a licensed physician providing a fake NPI. Obviously, this is still in litigation, but this is something where controls need to be put in place. This is where that robust due diligence work that we talked about earlier on this slide needs to occur with key stakeholders so that you really have the controls and the algorithms in place so that this does not happen. Another open litigation, character of AI and Google provided guidance to teens regarding options to commit suicide over a 2-year span. This resulted in very negative and sad circumstances, but it goes to show you that when not controlled by human interface and human oversight and constant review, annual, if not biannual review of how things are working from the AI that you are engaging with, there are things that are just coming up new that this wasn't even thought of 3 years ago. But now we're getting into it now where some of these local AI or national AI, it's just they're going off tangent and they tend to evolve, as it says, the algorithms evolve as they continue to use the data that's being provided. Next slide, please. So when you're assessing something, before jumping into a contract with a vendor and their application, the organization should assess its readiness, such as the ability to integrate technology into existing workflows to improve efficiency and patient care. Also consider whether AI will affect staff productivity without causing disruptions or violating regulations. Many times, if you don't really have the buy-in from your workforce or they don't understand what's going on, This causes severe progression of what you're looking to achieve through the AI application. Key areas include understanding the data flow and data readiness, inventorying your contracts with business associates, aligning AI with strategic goals, securing C-suite and leadership buy-in, considering legal regulatory compliance requirements, and encouraging user adoption, which would also go in line with user education. Some things to think about. First and foremost, why do you even need the application? What's its intended purpose, or what problem is it solving? Is there any data to back up what you're looking to do with that AI application? Will the AI application be able to integrate with a legacy system? Usually that's a stop for many, many organizations because historical information is where AI learns and processes its algorithms. What training will be needed for end users, such as AI basics, like we're learning today? Is there an oversight plan underway? And if so, who is accountable? The AI will not be accountable. It's the humans that are managing the AI and providing oversight that will be held accountable. Always allow for a testing phase or pilot where adoption hurdles can be handled before going live with the application. Next slide, please. Ethics is another organizational element to consider before you jump into any AI engagement. Ethical considerations refer to the moral principles and guidelines that are a priority in decision making, such as protecting privacy, reducing bias, maintaining human oversight, adhering to regulations, and ensuring accountability for AI decisions that are made. Let's dig a bit deeper into a few of the ethical pillars that you see on your screen. Algorithmic bias and equity. AI can sometimes pick up human bias from the data it learns from. Again, this goes back to the data that you put in, be it from your current go live system or a legacy system. This can lead to worse healthcare for certain groups of people. For example, some medical tools don't work as well on darker skin because they were mostly trained using images of lighter skin. Accountability and liability. It remains unclear who is ultimately responsible when AI makes diagnostic decisions or treatment errors, the developer or the clinician. This takes us back to the regulatory enforcement slide, in which both would currently be under review and held accountable. However, ultimately, especially when you look at sharing data under the HIPAA regulations, the actual contracting organization that contracted the AI application is going to be held more accountable because they have to provide the oversight and ongoing monitoring of that application. Human oversight. AI is designed as an assistant, not a replacement for human judgment, particularly in maintaining empathy in critical settings. Confirm the priority of human oversight for any application deployed and make sure it is in place before you choose and go live with your application. As we end this section of the presentation, I wanted to pause if there are any questions from the audience in the Q&A.
No, Martina, there are not. Linker, do you have another one to share?
I do. Thank you, Dawn. And this one actually ties in, Martina, for certainly about 2 slides ago, some of the cases you were talking about. So, what are the must have operational prerequisites, such as data quality, integration, or change management, before an AI solution could be both safe and useful?
So, my two pain points obviously are transparency, not only transparency within the organization and its key stakeholders, as well as end users that will be using the application, but also, if available and if it works for the organization, the transparency of the AI application. The other pain point, or thing that I think is a priority is truly, as we see it without AI and now with AI, whatever data goes into the application is what's going to really render the output. So you want to make sure that your data has been just reviewed, make sure that where there's standardization, use standardization. Where it needs to be patient specific, it is patient specific. We all know about cutting and pasting in the clinical world. It's not going to work for AI because AI is just going to take that and print out the same thing when it comes to a government audit. So those are my two pain points, and I appreciate the question. Thank you. Next slide, please. Responsible AI. And again, before we go forward with that, let's take a brief moment for a quick poll from the audience. The questions here are, do you feel AI is being used responsibly? In general, you feel AI is being implemented too quickly, just right, or you don't know? And are there ample regulations for AI adoption for organizations to adhere to? This is exactly why we're having this webinar as well as many other webinars that are out there regarding AI and the troubles people are encountering. As you see the results here, I'll let you know that 92% say that AI is not being used responsibly. 62% say it's being implemented too quickly, where 38% don't know, and there are absolutely nobody that thinks it's being implemented just right. And are there ample regulations for organizations for AI adoption? And the answer is 100% no. And again, this is exactly what I would have expected. And that's why we try very hard to go through as much as we can to help organizations understand what some of the industry best practices and standards are. Okay, next slide, please. Thank you, everyone, for participating. So let's move a little bit to responsible AI. Responsible AI is a human-centered approach to developing and managing AI systems ethically, balancing the innovation with safeguards against bias, privacy risks, and unintended harm. There are 5 consistent principles have emerged within the industry to guide AI development and use, and we'll go through these here. Privacy and security. Data is gold and should be treated as such. Validate data as accurately as you can and make sure that the data that you put in has been reviewed. You should do your own internal monitoring regarding the data to make sure that what's going in will result in a good outcome. Work group accountability, similar to the governance team. Implementation workgroup members are responsible to adhere to company policy and regulatory requirements. Transparency and understandability. Transparent governance helps ensure AI systems are reliable, understandable, and used responsibly. This builds confidence and trust in AI-supported decisions. Fairness and inclusivity. Engage all the people that are going to have anything to do with that AI application, regardless of their background. Reliability and safety. All systems should perform reliably without any risks to personal safety, be it employee personal safety, vendor personal safety, or patient consumer personal safety. Next slide, please. Let's talk a little bit about AI governance. When an organization adopts and uses AI, building AI governance is paramount and good industry practice. It provides essential framework for safe, ethical, and legal deployment, mitigating risks like bias, privacy violations, and reputational damage while ensuring AI aligns with organizational values and regulatory standards. Effective AI governance fosters trust and enables reliable, responsible AI innovation rather than merely imposing barriers. I go back to an example of when compliance or privacy are contacted for anything new within an organization. And historically, it used to be no, 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 no. It's just the word no. That's really not what we need to do. We need to work together. While the original solution might not be where it needs to be, let's work together to find an alternate solution. AI governance should include an AI governance charter with purpose and roles documented. Include a system of policies, guardrails, controls, and human oversight for AI use. Ensure AI meets safety, ethical, and regulatory standards, both within the organization and through regulatory requirements. Function as a centralized control system and work group for managing AI risks and understanding how decisions are made. They're going to be your go-to person should you have a regulatory concern or if there is some type of cyber attack. How did all this happen? Include a governance structure with multidisciplinary review boards to oversee AI application assessment and deployment. Review regulator monitoring and auditing reports for AI application effectiveness. Oversee AI contract lifecycle. I can't stress more that how this has become very heightened focus point over the past 6 months. And it's not only because of the new AI contracts coming out, but it's also because of the existing contracts that you have where AI is being built within the system and it could affect the services that are being deployed for you. Establishes the governance, AI governance establishes accountability for AI outcomes and human oversight and collaborates for privacy and data governance, meaning you should also have a data governance committee, you should have a data committee, and you also have a compliance committee. All those committees need to collaborate with one another when enforcing and actually bringing AI to the forefront of the organization. Next slide, please. Adopting AI into your business also requires evidence of an operational AI implementation infrastructure, including elements such as governance, training, and safety. Recommended components for an operational AI infrastructure include dedicated AI leadership and governance, which we just talked about, which includes streamlined accountability, centralized inventory of all AI applications and use cases, and remember to keep the humans in the loop. It's actually turned into an acronym in the industry, KHITL, keep humans in the loop. Clinical integration and workflow fit. Clinical workflows need to be built into the mapping and support existing processes and protocols, not disrupt them. Responsible leadership and AI literacy. Train staff on the fundamentals of AI way before you even think about going into AI or thinking about contracting with an AI, where it gets its data and potential red flags that they should be looking out for. Your end users are going to be the one that sees most of the red flags that are going to come from an AI application. Leadership needs to create a culture where AI is to support staff and remedy and support burnout. Technical infrastructure and data readiness. Human oversight is only as good as the data loaded. Conduct regular data cleansing, standardization, and privacy controls. I can't say enough during, many situations in which we looked at data regarding privacy, data breaches, or just looking through medical records, the amount of cutting and pasting, the amount of standardization that should have been there. For example, the date of birth field was not filled out correctly, or the date of encounter field was not filled out correctly. Those are things that can ruin the output from an AI application. So it's really important to do that data cleansing. Continuous monitoring and auditing. Again, the application, as with policies and protocols, should be continuously assessed for effectiveness and against its intended performance. Actionable resources and reliable frameworks. I've identified two through what I've worked in within AI. And you should leverage several healthcare organizations' authoritative AI infrastructure playbooks. For example, American Hospital Association and HIMSS both have extraordinarily comprehensive playbooks to use. Next slide, please. This slide actually represents examples of the whole host of just a few examples of a host of AI applications that are in the healthcare field. Some of the services healthcare applications provide include diagnostic support and image analysis, personalized treatment planning, predictive analytics for patient outcomes, managing your electronic health records, fraud detection and waste reduction, telemedicine and remote patient monitoring, chatbots for patient education and symptom checking, robotic surgery and assistive devices, and supply chain management, not just for supplies, but this is where your contract management comes into play. As we end this section, I wanted to pause and ask if there are any audience questions.
No, Martina, there are not. Linker?
Yes, I've got one. It's more on the post implementation of an AI solution, Martina.
Okay.
So, what does effective monitoring look like after go live? So, what signals, thresholds, what escalations paths should be in place?
That's a really great question. It's a complex question too. So, monitoring shouldn't be just assigned to the department that's actually using the AI, but usually also compliance or IT has a annual work plan that includes monitoring and auditing. And due to the fact that they are key stakeholders in that actual launching and use of the application, that should also be monitored through those mechanisms so that you're doing it from different angles within the organization and different users. As for the second part of the question, and can you read that again, Linker, please?
Absolutely. So, what signals, thresholds, and escalation paths should be in place?
The escalation path is what I wanted to focus on. Many times when you're looking through and reviewing a monitoring audit, it really just gets discussed. With AI as it's evolving as quickly as it is really important for an organization to have its employees as well as employees overall, managers, those end users day to day, as well as leadership, knowing exactly when to escalate a circumstance because AI circumstances and issues get out of control very, very rapidly. Thank you. All right, so let's go on to the next slide with AI implementation expectations. Next slide, please. Expectations of organizations come from a host of groups and individuals, such as board members, consumers, patients, employees, and regulators. Each category has multiple expectations, but common themes include considering and adhering to regulations for transparency, fairness, privacy, and ultimately this word that keeps coming up, accountability. And this quote from the National Institute of Health, ethical principles at risk, the integration of AI requires adhering to 4 medical ethics principles: autonomy with patient choice, beneficence, which is kindness and doing good, non-malfeasance, doing no harm, and justice, which is fairness, all of which are threatened by unchecked AI use. Next slide, please. Additional expectations include an effective AI implementation, which begins with aligning strategic business objectives to strong governance and meaningful human oversight. Organizations achieve the best results by launching focused pilot initiatives, ensuring high-quality data preparation, selecting purpose-built AI models, and maintaining continuous performance monitoring alongside proactive change management. This is a term we haven't talked about yet before, but AI in itself presents change for an organization. Change management needs to start from the top down for organizations and for their workforce members to understand and embrace the change that is coming. Do this proactively. To leverage the benefits of AI and address valid and important concerns requires a versatile, multidisciplinary, and adaptable team and approach. Team examples include bring AI and leadership to part of the AI governance infrastructure. As part of the AI governance membership should also be brought to the compliance and IT compliance boards, integrating AI into their annual risk assessments, auditing, and monitoring programs, as I answered in a question before. Also, often overlooked is that human resources should also be a key participant in AI governance because they have an understanding of the impact of the workforce and the training needs that need to be put in place. Next slide, please. This is a very fundamental checklist that we've created for implementing AI. Effective AI adoption should include a guide for implementing AI within the organization. This sample guide here takes you from the onset of considerations to the implementation and monitoring steps. We can briefly go through a couple of these. When you look at the very beginning, assess your organization's readiness, as we discussed early on in this presentation. The funding, the buy-in, board support, workforce skills and resources, and launching the AI governance committee. Then you have outlining the actual objective. What's the use case? What problems is it addressing? List and present a feasible time frame. Many people like to get something done quickly. Vendors like to get things done quickly, but you need to do it so that it makes sense and that it's done with reasonable time frames. Assess business infrastructure, assess the data and IT workflows, check organization's data inventory. Then comes the due diligence and evaluation. Assess project risk factors. Risk needs to be either accepted or it needs to be mitigated. And again, it's the leadership and the governance, AI governance, that should be helping making those determinations. Check policy inventory for gaps or necessary revisions, as you would on your contract templates. And draft a communication and education plan that is ongoing, not just a one-time thing. We've all learned that annual training, while it's very effective, it needs to happen on an ongoing basis because most people don't experience something that's addressed in a annual training that day. They might experience it 3 quarters later. And then you have the implementation and monitoring. Stay on top of the change management. Enlist a project management officer to keep everything on track. Develop a robust monitoring plan and continuously evaluate to make necessary adjustments, collaborating with the vendor and with the end users. Next slide, please. This is a fun slide to me because it actually presents some very unique quotes from organizations and from specific people. The first one I like is the very top by Jason Moore of University of Pennsylvania. Learning from the past, if we can, learning from the past, if we can just meter our excitement and allow for this technology to be developed at a reasonable pace with realistic goals, it's possible that we could reach some of the heights we'd always hoped. We need to realize once again that nothing in medicine ever comes easy, and all of the intelligence in the world, artificial or not, will not change that. Another one here is from Stephen Hawking in the middle. Success in creating AI would be the biggest event in human history. Unfortunately, it might also be the last unless we learn how to avoid the risks. And then the very last one, which it's a question that comes up a lot, the coder or any other workforce who doesn't learn how to use AI will not have a job, but the coder who knows how to use AI will continue to evolve their position. And as I've learned in many webinars that I've been in, it's the positions that are existing that are going to evolve. members or workforce members, they need to learn about AI. You might not be using AI. It's good to know about AI. It's good to understand what's going on in the industry. Next slide, please. In summary here, AI is actively transforming the healthcare industry quickly while organizations navigate the multitude of rapid innovation and ongoing technical breakthroughs, replacing many of today's tools and processes. However, we need to remain vigilant in our oversight of these changes and accountable how it affects patients, consumers, employees, and those that are at our leadership and our healthcare ecosystem. Remember, do AI responsibly. Next page, please. With that, I'd like to thank everyone for attending and take any additional questions there might be. If not, thank you for your time, and I hope that this really was informative. And if you have any questions after the fact, please feel free to reach out. But are there any questions at the moment?
There are not any in the Q&A, Martina.
Okay.
Martina, we do have one here that we got in pre-registration. I think you kind of addressed this during this last section, but if you could give executives one expectation, so just one, to set with vendors and internal teams, what would it be? Would it be evidence, transparency, security? I know you talked about accountability, or something else.
I usually say transparency, but with everything that has turned around just in the last 3 months, I would say accountability is more at the forefront now because everyone's going to have a role in what they do as it applies to whatever AI an organization is looking for. And everyone needs to be assigned what they're accountable for, and they need to be truly understanding what they're accountable for and be able to speak to it. And that includes vendors. Vendors need to be able to answer the questions that are coming from the organizations, be they questions that they think are ridiculous or not. They need to be held accountable as well. Thank you. Next slide, please. So along with the checklist that was a couple of slides ago, I did provide some links of interest, some that were part of the development of this presentation, others that are really just very educational and informational regarding what's going on in the industry and AI, and maybe some tools and maybe some case scenarios that might align or might be a light bulb for anyone going, oh, we are experiencing that right now. What do we need to do? And then the next slide here is sort of just a quick slide if anyone would want to explain to leadership or within their department the difference between white versus black box AI. It is very important, but again, as I alluded to earlier, it's usually only certain areas that are touching the actual determination of AI for an organization that are going to be at the point of needing to understand the difference between white box and black box when looking at different AI vendors. Next slide, please. So again, thank you for your time. I really appreciate it, and I hope everyone has a great rest of the day and great holiday weekend. And if you do have any questions, my contact number and information is in the slide and presentation. Thank you, everyone.